We will show you what Microsoft Teams is, how you can use the major feature set, the latest experiences, but we will also see what is so difficult with Microsoft Teams. I will not only show you what the good thing with Microsoft Teams is, however, I'm going to also show you what the major pain points are today with Microsoft Teams. With COVID-19, we know it's extremely important to be digitally transformed, and Microsoft Teams can help you with that. But if you want to work in a productive way, you need to know what the drawbacks and advantages are of Microsoft Teams. My name is Gokan Ozcifci, and I'm extremely happy to present you the slide that I'm always showing, the first slide about the Teams components. Whenever you get the question like, hey, Teams is a great tool, it's a perfect tool, I agree with all of that. However, Teams is not alone. Teams without the artifacts in the backend in Office 365, well, it is not as powerful as it meant to be. Teams is using SharePoint in the backend for storing the files. Teams is using Exchange for the email and conversations. Teams is using OneNote to take notes and share them across your team. It is using the Microsoft 365, and please don't really take care about the logo because I couldn't find the correct logo, but it should be a Microsoft 365 group. So meaning that every team that you create today will create a group and will automatically provision for you a SharePoint site, which is the underlying storage for the files and documents that you put in, a shared mailbox, a notebook, and still the Skype for Business artifacts. Because today, if you want to manage Teams from a voice perspective, you still need to install the PowerShell module of Skype for Business because you need that artifacts to be able to manage with PowerShell. So it is a true statement to say that every team you create will create a group that will provision the 4 major artifacts in the backend. As you can see, this is a top to bottom line. And whenever you create a team, it will create a group. However, whenever you create a group, there is no automatic way that this will create a team. If you look a little at the bottom, every group that you create will create a SharePoint site, and every site that you create, which is not standalone, will also create a group, right? So the only missing link is this one from a group to team, but that we will see in a few seconds how you can also resolve that issue. The second layer is the extending the experience, is that pane here. So you have the Office 365 artifacts in the Teams architecture, but you can also extend that experience. You can bring any Power App into Teams and use that in the Teams app catalog. You can use Power Automate to bring stuff and automate that. You can even go outside of the Microsoft ecosystem like Dropbox, Adobe, Google G Drive, and bring that data into Microsoft Teams and use that into Microsoft Teams. And the last part is then they build your own application, is then the Azure side of stuff. You can use Azure services, and God knows how many services we have in Azure, but what you can use many of them, such as the notification hub or the pipelines to build your own application to monitor Teams, or even bring notifications to your personal app from Teams, and so on and so on. So Teams is actually, in my humble opinion, divided in 3 major stacks. One, which is the Office 365 artifacts, the extension, and then the build your own application, the feature set that you get from Azure to build your own app. Then one of the questions I always get is like, hey, Gokan, can we backup Microsoft Teams? Because a lot of administrators, legacy IT administrators, people who think backupping a tool is the safest way to keep it running, well, they ask me, can we backup a Microsoft team storage, a conversation, etc., etc. A typical consultant answer, therefore, is yes, it depends. You could get tools that can do it for you. You can do it by your own. You can write scripts. You can do a bunch of stuff. And the reason why I'm always giving it depends answer is, as I mentioned, every single artifact that you have here, from a mailbox, from a SharePoint site, from a Skype for Business perspective, they all use microservices to actually bring that experience to you. A great example is the SharePoint one. If you share a file into a team file, meaning that you have it team and you have a channel into that and you share a file into that, well, that's going to be placed into a SharePoint site. However, if you have a one-to-one chat with a person, with a colleague, well, that one will be stored into OneDrive for Business. Another example is if you have a meeting and you record that meeting, well, the recording will be first sent to Microsoft Stream, and then that one will be encoded and bring back to you into Microsoft Team. So people who couldn't actually see that meeting, well, they can rewatch that meeting on a later stage. So yes, the storage is extremely important because it's actually diverse and a little bit everywhere. But the answer is yes, you can back up and get that data from anywhere you want. So why was there a need? And this is like the last or maybe 2 more slides, and then we'll deep dive into the demonstration. Why is there, or why was there a need for Microsoft Teams? And I'll just go until the last one here. There we go. Today on premises, I'm even not talking about legacy applications or legacy servers. It is just too complicated. It is complicated to achieve what Microsoft Teams is doing today. If you want to think about the cloud offerings, such as OneDrive, where you can go up to 1 terabyte of storage, where you have like the latest capabilities, such as always have on device with Windows 10, or think about the cloud innovations such as AI, Delph, Project Cortex, SharePoint Spaces, which Patrick Kimonet will give a session about Spaces. Well, you can never have them on premises, right? You will maybe require a lot of effort, a lot of stuff to do before getting that into on premises. Transformations, if you think about Flow, Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI, well, it is extremely complicated to bring those stuff in on premises. And we know with the Microsoft's era of mobile first, cloud first ideology, mantra, a lot of new features, a lot of experiences are first born in the cloud. And it is a normal thing that businesses, they want to go into cloud first because all the new experiences are from there. So IT organizations, project managers, departments needed a secure, scalable, and flexible hub for their digital transformation. And I think Microsoft Teams fit perfectly into a secure, scalable, and flexible hub for their transformation. If you look at a few of those very, very nice advantages, and this is the last slide before we get into the demo, is that it has an extremely fast provisioning engine behind the screen for the new workloads. Today, if you want to start a new people into an organization and you have to create an account for him, a SharePoint site, an Exchange email address, it can take quite time to do so. With Teams, you just add your user, assign the licenses, add it to a team, or an external user, just add external user to the team, and he's ready to go. Very fast. The intelligent bot ecosystem, and I'm a huge fan of that, being able to replace FAQs, static lists, HTML files by the Azure Cognitive Services, by the Q&A maker. Well, that's something which is really nice with Microsoft Teams. The technical agility today in an on-premises era, whenever you want to add some memory, some more RAMs, you need the approval from the IT. You have to go to the change manager. You have to start a project plan. You need to do X, Y, Z, always complicated stuff. With Teams, well, basically, and it's maybe too bad to say that, but we don't care. It's Microsoft in the backend, which is actually checking for how Teams is doing as a behavior, and then they adapt and act accordingly. So if they see that you have a lot of struggle with Microsoft Teams and that there is a lot of people, like with the pandemic now, we have like 75 million active connections with Teams. I'm pretty sure in the backend, they have been doing a lot of work by adding more servers, more memory, more X, more Y to bring that latest experience to us without any issue. The anytime, anywhere access is also something that I really, really love. Being able to handle operations outside of your network perimeter is something which has no price. I still remember a few years ago when I worked for the biggest insurance company here in Belgium, getting a connection from home was so complicated. A VPN token, an SMS code, having access from a SharePoint list, which had to be approved by a director somewhere. Well, it could be time consuming. Today, you just need an internet access, maybe for MFA, with the application. You just authenticate yourself, authorize yourself, and then you're ready to go. So this is actually one of a few major great points of Microsoft Teams. That being said, we had a lot of talk, so let's go to the demo. And therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this one. And let me check. Yes, everyone can see it. That's great. Just looking for, okay, cool. There we go. So this is my demo environment. And as you can see, whenever the IT admin adds you to the demo environment, you should already be seeing a few teams. Like, as you can see, I have the customer team, the picture team, the intranet, and the Microsoft Regional Director team. However, if the IT admin didn't do his job and you don't see that, well, no worries. If you have the access, well, you can join or create a team. Why do I say if you have the access? Because remember in the slides that I showed you that every team will create a Microsoft 365 group, and that one will trigger the creation of a SharePoint site, an Exchange mailbox, and a OneNote notebook. Well, in an organization, if you have 100 people, which is not that much, right? 100 people, and everyone creates one team a day for testing purposes, for collaboration purposes, or just for fun. That would mean that you would have 100 SharePoint sites, 100 groups, 100 mailbox, and 100 OneNote. So that's the reason why many organizations today still don't allow people to create teams. They want to have governance on top of that. And I gave the example of 100 people company. Could you imagine having an organization with 5,000, 10,000 people, and this open to everyone? Well, from an IT perspective, it's really becoming a mess to manage everything in the backend. So whenever you hit, if you have the rights on join or create a team, well, you will see three options. You can create a team, you can join a team with a code, or you can simply join an existing one. You can only join a public team. You cannot join a private team, right? You will only see the public teams here, and in a private team, you have to get the code and bring the code here, or the owner of that team will bring you into that team. So what you can do is simply hit that button, and you will see that the Gokan 365 will be now part of my team section, and I can simply come here and collaborate with people and files into that. If you come here and hit on create a team, well, you will get two options. First of all, you can create a team from scratch, or you can build a team from a Microsoft 365 group or team. So let's go for the second one. Now it asks you, okay, cool, you want to do some templating. From which one do you want to get that? You can get that from a team or from a group. Group is disabled because today I have no standalone groups, which means every group that I have in my environment is linked to a team. If you would have a group which is not linked to a team, well, that's what we call a teamify. You can just come here and link your group to a team. Now I'm going to choose for a team, and you can see that now he is going to show me every team that I'm a member of, and I can choose any of those, and I will choose the soccer versus football side, which is here, which already has a few of those channels. So I'm going to select that one, and then he is going to ask me to a title. I'm going to give that Valo Fest channel. And then you can give a description and then choose for the privacy. Again, if you make it private, only team owners can add the members. If you make it public, anyone in the organization can join, like I joined for the Gokan 365 team. So I'm going to make it public, bring it here, and then I can just simply choose if I want to copy the apps, the members, the team settings, the tabs, etc., etc. However, what people don't really read is this one. The messages, files, and content won't be copied. You need to set up the tabs and connectors again. Again, even if the word template is just here, this is not a real template, not a real templating engine as well. This will come soon at Microsoft Teams, but today is not the case. So if I hit on create, now Microsoft Teams will create a new Microsoft 365 group, a new SharePoint site, a new Exchange mailbox, and a new OneNote notebook. It is taking a lot more time. And when I say a lot more time, it's only about a few seconds. You can add more people, or I'm going to just skip that one. And what you will see now is that the Valo Fest channel that I just created has the same channels as the soccer versus football site. However, if I come under the flight expenses, you will see that this is empty. If I come under the flight expenses here, I have a bunch of other stuff appearing into my posts. If I come under the Valo Fest channel, what you will see is under the three dots, I have a bunch of options. And one of them, and we will see all of them, right? But what I want to show you is if you hit on manage a team, under the settings, you have the team code. This is a specific code that's made for you by Microsoft that you can generate. If you hit on that, your specific team, which is Valo Fest channel, will get actually your code, and you can share that code with people so they can come under the join and create and bring that code just here in, and then they can join that team. And you will see, as I already joined that code, it comes automatically here to me. If I come again under manage a team, well, very quickly, what you can see is under the members tab, you can see the owners and you can see the members and guests. The main difference between members and guests is that members are part of my organization, guests are actually outside of the organization. And a member can be promoted to an owner. However, a guest cannot be promoted as an owner, and it should remain as a guest. I'm sorry. You can add the member from that button here and then simply type the name or the email address and add him, or again, hit on the three dots and put on add a member and bring the member from here. You have the channels just here, and you can have a little bit governance stuff within the channel section and say like, okay, I don't want to see the football channels. Well, then they will disappear from the left side. They will go under the hidden channels. And then you can even decide for the members what you want to do. You can see the type of those channels, if they're standard channels or private channels, and then you can see the activity of them just herein. What's tremendously good with that is whenever you come into an existing one and hit the channels again, well, you can see the deleted part. I have a bunch of channels that I deleted, and I can simply come and say like, okay, I want to restore any of them. The F16, I'm going to restore that. And if you hit on restore, well, what you will see under the soccer and football game, well, you will see a new channel appearing, F16. And what's really, really great is it will also restore the content. So you can see all the content that comes here that will be restored. How amazing is that? That means that you can delete some channels, and within a specific time frame, and if I'm not wrong, it's like 14 days, well, you can restore your channel. I'm coming back under manage my team and then now go under the settings. I can add a picture for my team, choose for the permissions, such as enable channel creation, adding apps, allowing members to create and update channels, and so on. I can enable or disable the guest permissions. I can enable, disable the mentions. The team code, we already spoke about that. You can reset that code if you don't like that one, and it will generate one for you. The bad thing with that is that you cannot choose for a code for your own. It is something that Microsoft is giving to you. You can remove or copy that. Then you can bring the fun stuff. You can enable, disable memes, gifs, stickers, and finally, tags. That's something new. So what is actually tags? You can, by the way, just as we are here, you can select who can create tags, owners only or all the members. However, if you come here under Valo Fest channel, well, you have that new option called manage tags. If you hit on that, it will bring you to the new experience of creating a new tag. So what people are doing is they just create something like that, SharePoint team. And they add people inside that, right? And they do something like that. And then they create that, and which is good because that means that you have a tag. And whenever you start a new conversation into that specific team, because that tag is only known into that team, not outside of that, I can start a new question and say like, hey, SharePoint team. And now I can actually very simply notify the people who are into that specific tag and ask them a question about that, right? And the good thing with that is if I publish that, well, you will see that the tag will get a red color. It is not blue anymore, it is red. And if I hover on top of that, you will see that this is a tag group and it shows me the members of that, which is tremendously good. What we will do now is the following. I'm gonna add this one and create a new tag and say speakers, add Gokan again, create that. So now we have two of them. So from an end user perspective, if you start your thread, your question and say like, hey, SharePoint team, speaker team, and then general, and then flight expenses, and then football. Well, if you're new into Microsoft Teams, at the end, when you have like a long text, you don't know which one was a team, which one was a channel, or which one was a tag, because they all have that bluish color, right? And that from a visual perspective, honestly, I don't really like that. That's not something I would recommend to everyone to use it. So what I do say to my customers, to my partners, is to add a hashtag in front of every tag. And then say like, okay, I have a SharePoint team, right? And then I will create another one. I have a Teams team, and then I'm adding Gokan. I just forget to add the hashtag in front. There we go. And then I'm adding another one, just to give you a brief example. It's about Exchange. And then adding, Gokan is the only user, or maybe my brother. Yeah, there you go. I will add Farooq just to be sure. So I have my tags. Now, if I delete that, and if I just mention the hashtag, now it's extremely easy for someone to understand that the exchange is a tag because it has the hashtag in front. And now if I just do this and mention a channel, now from a visual perspective, I know that this is a tag and this is a channel. It is something really stupid. It's just adding a hashtag in front of every tag. But from a visual perspective, it's easier to understand. It's easier to remember what is a channel and what is a tag. And if you continue like this and do another one and say like SharePoint, again, I know that SharePoint now is a tag and not a channel or something else. Very simple, very powerful. I'm just continuing again under the manager team, and what you will see on the fourth pane is the analytics. This one will not have that much details because it's a new one, but hey, you can see the users, the apps, the SharePoint storage. You can see the active users, meetings, engagements, all of that. And what's tremendously good is that you can now filter. You can search for a channel and say like, I want to see the flight expenses, and I want to see for the last 90 days. And then the graphic will update accordingly just for you. And the last section I'm going to show you is if I come here under the apps, well, you can add more apps into your team or delete the apps that you don't want to use anymore. So if you say like, okay, hey, Power BI, I don't need it, you can just hit on that, and then Power BI will be deleted from your team, and you can just come here under the more apps and add any app to your team and use that. As you can see, I also have a Power App just herein. You can use the App Studio to bring any Power App and use that app and add that into your team. But that's not the subject of today. That's for another session. You can hide a team. You can delete a team. Just to show you, if you hide a team, it will come under the hidden section, the hidden teams. And if you don't have activity in any channels from anybody for 45 days, every team will automatically be switched off to the hidden section, right? So I will now show that, and this one will come back here with all the channels. So channels are containers into a team, which will contain your data, your unstructured data, your connectors, your tabs to applications, to templates to anything into your organization. And as you can see, I have a bunch of them just here. So if you come here under the three dots and say, okay, add a channel, well, you will basically create a new container. I'm gonna do Valo Fest, and I can choose for the privacy, standard or private. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose for a standard one, and I'm gonna add that. We will see the private one in a few seconds. Now, you can see I have a new channel, and that one is actually empty, and it has like the post for the conversations, the files, which is like the SharePoint. As I mentioned, the files will be stored into a SharePoint, and the people will recognize that. And then you have the plus button where you can actually add more into the tabs, any applications such as Yammer, which is communities, the planner, the wiki, and so on and so on. What's really good with that is the following. I'm going to add a new document into that, and I'm going to name it Gokan's doc. I'll create that. Now I'm leaving the Teams experience to come to the Word Online experience into Microsoft Teams, and then I can simply start. This is my text. Hoping to get the controls in Word Online. There we go. I'm gonna close this. There we go. Now it's saving. There is no save button in Word Online. I'm going to save this, and this will be actually stored into my SharePoint. And that means that if I open this in SharePoint, I will be quitting the Teams experience, coming into the SharePoint experience. And then what you will see is that I will be into the documents, the shared documents, into my SharePoint site. It just takes a few seconds. I think my Wi-Fi is doing horribly bad today. I'll just leave it here until it opens. And that document will then be stored into SharePoint. The major drawback with that is the following. And please stay tuned with that. I'm gonna give the same name, and Teams will say, Gokan, you can't do that because the channel name is already taken, which is correct, right? So what people aim to do is they use emojis, and they will say, okay, let's add an emoji. And now from a Teams perspective, the error will disappear. You remember there was an error just here? It just disappeared because Valo Fest with an emoji is different from Valo Fest with no emoji. I'm gonna add that. And now from a Teams perspective, no worries, it has been added. However, if I come back under my files, what you will see is the document that I just created under Valo Fest is also available under Valo Fest $, which is strange, right? Because we know that every channel we create will create a folder for you into the shared document library, which now looks like a bug because I have twice the same folder. So what I will do now is I'm gonna just right click and say rename, just to be sure, and I'm gonna do like Gokan's document instead of doc. I'm gonna save that. While SharePoint says it's okay. If I come to my Valo Fest under files, oh my God, it has been changed here as well. So what's happening in the backend is that if I come under my documents, well, the provisioning engine behind that didn't create a Valo Fest folder with that specific emoji. So it simply said, I already have the Valo Fest folder, so let me reuse that again. Why should I create a Valo Fest second folder? And that's the reason why we see both in the both channels the same document. So if I just come here and say like, okay, rename it from here, SharePoint, and people would shoot me because it's not P capital. There we go. From SharePoint, it has been changed. If I come back and come into Valo Fest with a $, well, you will see that it has been changed here as here. So always be careful whenever you add an emoji into a channel name because it has some dramatic consequences. Let me show you something else. And this here's the magic trick. I'm gonna do Valo Fest again. So it's gonna claim again that I can't do that because the channel name has already been taken. So if I open my emoji box again and add a heart sign, because we love Valo, we wanna have a channel with a heart sign. I'm still keeping it private, standard. I'm adding that. So what you would expect is that the file would be shown here, right? But it will not. It's empty. That's strange again. So if I come back to my documents, well, you will see that now, well, maybe I have to refresh. Hopefully now it won't take that much time. There we go. Now he could translate the heart emoji into ASCII code and create a folder, which for me is a clear bug in Microsoft Teams. I've been raising the issue like for the last 2 years, and I still can't see, unfortunately today, any progress into that section. So that means that some emojis can be translated, some cannot. And today I still couldn't find a way to block people using emojis into the channel names. What's tremendously bad as well with that is if you add, no, not manage a team, but if you add a channel and say like, I hate Knut, right? You could just for the fun have a channel name which is like not that fancy, not professional, and start working on that. Working one, and then just, you know, have another conversation. You just start working on that. And at the end, you simply say like, oh my God, Knut is part of that team. That's not good. So I need to rename that, right? So you can just hit on the 3 dots and then edit this channel and then say like, I love Knut, right? From a team's perspective, that's gonna work perfectly. You will see I love Knut just here. However, if you come here, you will see I hate Knut. If you do a refresh, well, it will still remain I hate Knut. It won't be changed. So what many people will do, they will get scared and they say, oh my God, I did a big mistake. So I will rename it, try to rename it from here. So I love Knut. I love Knut. That's okay. From a SharePoint perspective, you can do that. So you could say, hey, oh, wow, it's working because I have I love Knut here and I love Knut there. But if you come under files, now actually you did break your SharePoint. The link between the folder and the channel is now disappeared. It will not work anymore. That's a big major issue as well. As you can see here, another big drawback that we have today is if you hit on manage a team, or not that one, but edit a team, you could say, okay, I did a mistake. It isn't supposed to be called Valo Fest channel, but simply Valo Fest 2020. Channel is a bad name. You can do that and change that. And that's great from a team's perspective. It will be worked very well. Valo Fest 2020, great, nothing at all. However, if you come here and do a refresh again, what you will see is that the name is not going to change. It's going to still rename Valo Fest channel. And well, this one, that's still okay, because if you hit on that, well, you will see that the group has been changed, etc., etc. But this one is still a major drawback. The site name cannot be changed. So what I say to the customers and partners, try to do like in SharePoint Server, use technical names to avoid that kind of situations. It is not always easy to use technical names, but if you have the chance, please to do so, because as you can see, this can bring a lot of issues in the long term. If I come here back and add a channel and say like private Valo Fest, and then choose for the private one, hit on next. Well, now the main difference between the other channel creations now is asking me to add person. The members that you want to add here are the members who are part of this team. You cannot add members from the intranet, pictures, or customers because they need to be part of the Valo Fest 2020. So I'm going to skip that. I'm not going to add anyone. And what you will see is that the private channel will get a nice, simple icon, which shows you that this is private. And it has the same experience as a standard one. Even the files will be the same. However, if you open in SharePoint, you will see a few changes, minor changes. It says to you like, hey, this folder is connected to a channel in Teams. And that literally means don't touch that site, because this site is not connected to the Office 365 group. It is a standalone site. And the standalone site is managed by Teams. So if you do any change into the site, like change the policies, change the security, add a page, adding lists, well, Teams will just erase everything what you have done and bring his model on top of that. So please don't touch that site. To go further, that site is even not available into the SharePoint Admin Center. The only way to see this site and to do modification on top of that is to use PowerShell as an admin. Because admins, even if they are the Teams admins, they cannot access this site. It's only for the people who created or are a member of that one. You can go to the channel and you can go to the channel conversation just from here. Simple modifications, which shows you that you are part of a private channel. Under any channel, what you could do is you can start a new conversation, and I already started a few one. And what's driving me crazy is the following one. Let me show you that to you. And I see a lot of people doing this. Hey, I have a question. And then somebody else replies, hey, how can I help you? And then the discussion just continues like that. And you have multiple threads going on at the same time. And at the end, it's just like, wow, this is so bad. And honestly, I can't blame the end users, the businesses to doing that. It's also something Teams related. The user experience is not that optimal. However, I would recommend you to always hit on the format button, because that one will give you the chance to add a subject. And then you could say Valo Fest agenda, right? And then you could begin, hey, speakers, and then write your text and then say thanks. And then whenever you add that, well, it is extremely easier to hit on the reply button and then start the text herein as well, and to continue discussion like this. Please always do like this. Try to always add a title to your thread, to your conversation. Otherwise, it's getting really, really complicated to read all of those stuff. What I want to also show you is the following one, HTML question. So take the example, you are working for IT and you have a question. I'm going to tag somebody. I've a question about HTML. And then, well, you know, this is like the word experience where you can see the bold, underline, italic, etc., etc. But what's really cool is this one, the code snippet. You could just come here and then say like, okay, I'm going to choose any language, and I'm going to choose HTML because I'm not a developer, and I'm going to write my code just herein. So I'm going to just close my HTML, and what you will see that he will close the HTML bracket. So if I come like to body, he will close my body. If I do head, he will close my has. The thing is that there is no real check about the names, because I did do like has, it should be had. Well, he doesn't really care about that. And if you change that, well, you will see that there is still a little bit intelligence, and he gives a red has, and now it's working great. So what you could do is do like P1, he will close the P1 and say like, this is my question. He will remember and add the same layout as the HTML into your question. This is something fantastic. What you could say is, okay, actually that is not really a question, but I really like to make this as an announcement. And you can do that. Now you get something new, a headline. And you could say like, okay, this is an announcement about HTML 65 version released. Something like that. And you could just rename the question from here. And then you could have an announcement with that. You can change the color of the announcement. You can make that red, or you could simply come here and upload an image as in the background just here. You can enable or disable people commenting on your announcement, you can just say like, okay, everyone can reply, or only me and the moderators, the team owners can reply on top of that. And this is something really cool whenever you have like sensitive information to share. Take the example, the CEO gets fired, or there is some sexual harassment into the company going on, and you have an announcement about the policies in the organization. You maybe prefer to limit the conversation, speculations in the organization. And you could simply say, okay, only moderators and me can reply on that one. That's something I will give to you. Just read that. And this one, post in multiple channels. This is the, how should I call it? The reply to all effects in Microsoft Teams, such as in Exchange. If you select the channels, well, you can just come under the Valo Fest 2020 and say like, okay, I like to add this in every single channel, which is fair, right? You can do that. And you can bring that announcement about the HTML version being released into multiple channels, and you can see as the owner, you can see that there is a nice icon being here and here for the announcement, and to show you in which channels this has been posted. The bad thing with that is if you reply to that, HTML sucks, right? You could do that, but that comment will not be replicated into the other channels. And that's the reason why I call it like the reply to all effect, because at the end, if you publish this into hundreds of channels, you will never remember which kind of information was posted where. And that's where the issue begins, right? Losing the track of information is the hardest part of the job. I do speak a lot of French. In Belgium, it's one of the nation languages. It's also my native language. And some French people, their English is not that good enough. And what they could do is they could say like, bonjour, je peux vous aider en français. So he could write something like that. And you could say like, okay, maybe his English is not that well, but I can't understand French. What Microsoft Teams is giving to you is the option to translate any language to English. And now you can see that the French has been translated to hello, I can help you in French. And you will see that nice little icon saying like, hey, I could understand the language, it's French, and I'm bringing that in English for you. So this is only for you. It is not because you have translated that it will be translated for the whole corporation. It's only for you. And then you can just come here on the three dots and say like, okay, I can see the original message. And then you can reply on that and say like hamburger, dog, cola. Right? This doesn't make any sense, but you can do that. You can reply anything into Teams. And what's really good with that is under the translate option, you have what we call the immersive reader. If you hit on the immersive reader, and that's something that comes from the education system to Microsoft Teams, is that you can see your thread into the immersive reader, and you have three options. The text preferences, you can just make it smaller or bigger, right? You can increase spacing, choose for the font and the theme, nothing rocket science. If you come on the grammar options, you can enable, disable for the verbs, nouns, adjectives, okay, nothing rocket science. However, things are getting interesting with the picture dictionary. I have my picture dictionary enabled. If I come under the hamburger, well, you can see that it shows me the hamburger because he could understand what hamburger meant, and I can read it in English. And don't ask me why it proposes to listen to in Turkish. It should be in French, but I don't know for any reason it's in Turkish. Maybe because I did a previous demo for a Turkish company, it's remembered that, but hey, you can do that. If you come under dog, it will give the word in English. It will also translate it into Turkish, and you can even listen to that. However, if you go to cola, in Turkey, we aim to say cola. In French, we can also say Coca-Cola. It doesn't understand that. It should be, and it's a bad saying, it should be proper English. It is not regional stuff. It should be really proper English. And what you can do here, oh, now I see why, because the translate was in Turkish. If I come and choose here in French, and let's go for French from France. You could say, oh, please translate it by word, or you could simply say translate the whole document into French, and now you will see that now this is, okay, now it's correct. It's from French to English, again, from French to English. The good thing with that is you can also play this. If you have like a tremendous long thread, you can just hit on the play button and listen it to in French or into English with your headsets. 3 minutes left. I'm going to show you a final stuff, which I think is extremely important within the conversations, is that you can have multiple options at the bottom. One of them is like the attaching files, emojis, GIFs, but this one is really, really nice to know, the Meet Now option. Whenever you do Meet Now, is that you can have a direct meeting into Microsoft Teams with your colleagues. You can have a subject, Valo Fest agenda planning, and then you can just hit on Meet Now. And now you will be actually into the meeting experience. And then what you can do is, that's new. You can manage the permissions. You will be actually bring to a new page where you can arrange settings for bypassing the lobby, etc., etc. You can download the attendee list. That's also something new. You can get the link so people can join your meeting. But the one thing I want to show is, if you come under the share option, you have something new. Well, something that not everybody is really aware of is the whiteboard meeting. If you hit on the whiteboard meeting, well, you will be launched into that application into Microsoft Teams, and you can draw anything into your Teams meeting. The main difference with Skype for Business and this is, with Skype for Business, the speaker was presenting and everybody was listening. With whiteboard, I can draw stuff, and this looks like a SQL server. And my bad, I'm very bad in drawing, which has a connection to, let's say, Azure Active Directory, and which has a connection to the cloud, just drawing something. And people who are attending that meeting can also draw and continue the discussion with me. But take the example that your manager is not here and he just could not assist to that meeting. He simply can come and start the whiteboard app, and I'm going to just bring that on top. So that app is free into the store, on the Microsoft Store. You can download the app, authenticate with the same credentials as on your team, and Whiteboard will check and find that there is a new whiteboard meeting, and it will show that to you. So if you are part of that meeting, very easily you can come and see, remember that bad drawing skill I had? Well, you can do the same, continue the drawing even outside of Microsoft Teams. And what's really tremendously good is that you can actually come here and select and add an image just here. And you could say, Gokan, this is not rocket science. You just add an image. But the magic just begins here. If you hit on Ink Grab, well, now AI behind Microsoft Teams, behind Whiteboard, will integrate that image as a real drawing. And then you can just continue and say like, oh, people, my bad, we had this. So we will maybe just remove that option and only go for cloud. And then that thing that you have been doing will be saved into your whiteboard, and then you can just continue the meeting into Teams under the whiteboard meeting. Okay, we are 1 minute out of time. We have 4 minutes for questions. I really hope that you enjoyed this session. I really hope that you could see how you could create a team, how you could manage a team with the tags, with the channels, with the SharePoint integration, how you could use the immersive reader and the translate option and the meeting, whiteboard meeting, and how you could actually transform an image to make it like real drawing and continue the discussion. I really hope that you have learned at least something and that you won't go home without learning anything. So if there are any questions, you can ask them to Johanna or unmute yourself and let's have a few minutes talk.
Well, at least for me, the whiteboard thing, I have to brush up my drawing skills. I think it's really useful when you like to explain things and be more, thinking about things. I think it's a good feature and tackles a lot of those just writing things.
Yeah.
So we have.
Yeah.
Maybe do we have a question? No. Well, let's see the hand raised here. Oh, just a moment. We have Karike. So please, you can unmute yourself and open the camera if you have a question for Gokan. He's happy to answer you.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having the Valo Fest. It's awesome. I just have a question on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Gokan, do you have any suggestions when you want to draw, like actually hardware suggestions that you can have to draw if you don't necessarily have a drawing pad, or could you maybe use your phone, or what would you suggest to make that easier when presenting through the whiteboard?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, I think, doing that. Louise Fries, which is also a speaker at Valo Fest, she has amazing tips and tricks on how you can do drawings with simply OneNote. And I'm always amazed how she can do it like so simple. And me, I can't even, draw with SQL Server. It's like, I would recommend you to watch one of her drawing sessions. And she has a bunch of tips on how you can easily do those meetings. And yeah, and I think she's also in the call. Maybe she can unmute herself because she is the master. She knows how to do some stuff. I think she would be the perfect person to reply on that. Hey, Louise.
Awesome. Thanks, Gokan.
Hi, Gokan.
Hey, maybe you can reply on that because you are the sketchnote girl. You know how to do stuff. So
yeah. So let me correct you. I've been the sketchnote girl. I put out a lot of blog posts about that. You can find this on tech community. I can share the link with you so you can reach a broad audience with that, and so we can all start drawing in OneNote and whatnot.
That's great. That's great. Okay, then I have to go because the next session will begin in 5 minutes. Thank you all for joining the session and see you at the Valo Fest under the Valo hashtag. Love you all. See you all. Cheers and bye-bye.
Thank you all from my part as well. And actually, the next session will be from Luis and Elio, how to run a business on Microsoft 365 with Power Platform.